Hello and welcome to the George FTTV YouTube channel. For this video, we'll be looking at teams or rating the teams of our members. So from that have signed up to fantasytaketv.com. So thank you to those who have shown their support. I think we have about 67 members at the moment. So very kind of you guys and hope you guys are enjoying the content. But for this video, we are doing, team ratings. So lots of different structures at the moment. We're starting to get a better idea of, a few rookies are popping up, a few maybe not underpriced, but lower end premiums are having impressive preseasons. So I guess like your Hayden Young and your Tom Greens by the sounds of things, but they're only preseason reports. So still slightly speculative, but we're hearing some good things. So we'll get into that. But before we get into the team rating, just quickly show off the website. So fantasytaketv.com, a one-off payment of $25 and you get a whole bunch of content, so a bunch of articles. So JD's done most of that and he's been working hard on a bunch of spreadsheets which show how you can easily compare like TOG and players side by side, so that's good. And then we're recording our third podcast tonight, so I think we get 8 videos, 3 Q&As, 5 podcasts through the website. So thanks again for your support and enjoying doing content for that at the moment. Now we'll get to the teams. The first person's team we have is Big U, and he's running. I think he set himself the challenge of trying to get 13 premiums. So at the moment, it's still a bit early to know about structure and whatnot. But I think we're getting closer idea of what that will be as the preseason goes on. But he set the task of going 13 premiums. Obviously the one that sticks out here is Nick Martin, so we'll speak about that in a second. But I think the question, I guess, in defense is, how many premiums are we running? People are starting to skimp. Yo's having a good preseason. You got McKenna and Wilmot playing in the ones. We might get Weddle and Cow and there's Ginby there. We got a whole bunch of players. So how shallow can we go on the defense? Can we get away with a Wilmot at D6? I hope so, and I think Wilmot's, is the 22nd player looking at their best 22. He's been rotating on a wing a bit with, I think, Pryor and Tunstall. Tunstall, that's the one. So playing a bit of everywhere, bit of halfback, bit of wing. So he might get a spot there, and I think the hope is, that he might be a slight sub-risk, but they might be playing Darcy Fort. Actually, no, they won't because they got Gunston. I don't think Darcy Fort's best 22. So I guess they might have a few options to. Is it Wilmot is the one that gets subbed? I'm not too sure. So regardless, I think if a player is being subbed, it's probably going to be halfway through the third, and that is if no injuries happen. So I think the sub risk won't be too bad, and I think it will almost be worth it for players like this with a wing halfback. Not the wing's not the greatest role, but halfback you can get a few points there. So in second year player, so. I think if he's named in the 22, even with the sub risk, I think I'd be okay playing him. But that's something we'll get a bit more time to assess because I think they do rate him. But anyway, that's enough on the D6 position. So I guess the hope is we also need Cowan or someone else to pop up on the bench. So I do feel a lot safer with a McKenna at D6. But I think at this stage we might be able to get away with Wilmot. If not, we'll see. We'll have to allocate funds there. But he's gone the Young Dacos combo. Can you go both Young and Dacos? I think so. I don't think they'll both be top 6, but Dacos you can flip. He has the middle, the third buy. There's 4 buy rounds now, and Young has the first one, so you can't really flip him. But we're hearing a lot of good things on Hayden Young. I think they can both do 100 plus this year. I think Young I would have slightly ahead. I think the scope for him is a little clearer, with more kick-ins potentially. But Dacos, he put up unbelievable numbers. Is he going to get a lot more mid-time? Is he going to be just rotating off halfback and midfield again? How much is he going to improve over his second season? So I like both at the moment. I think a few people are iffy on Dacos. I understand that. Just because, where's the improvement coming from? He's already getting 25 a game and he's splitting his time between forward and back. So it's not forward, defense and back. So it's quite hard to see the scoring avenues, but maybe a bit of natural progression and he improves. So I think you can run both. I don't think I will. I think maybe there's a chance, but I'm just going to be wary that, we have a lot of top defenders and one of them might need to be traded if there's really good defenders. That looks like after the buy, so, but you're probably stuck with Hayden Young if you're picking him. So I guess it all depends on where you rate them. If you think they're going to go 100 plus, I think it's fine to keep them because they're value now. If you're not sure, then I probably wouldn't pick them. So I guess that's where that's at. And I think I have Young at about low hundreds, and I think it will depend on the kicker numbers. And I have Dacos, I think I'm spot on 100 I put him at. So I think it's fine when you go by that. And yeah, just Yo, I think I don't think you have to pick Yo, but if he starts really looking good and accumulating a lot like he has in the past, it's going to be frustrating not to own him. But at the same time, the durability is just horrendous. But yeah, he's good value. I don't think he's a keeper, which means at 330k you don't have to start him, but probably going to get injured at some point. But nonetheless, I think I feel comfortable. You know, if he plays, he scores, basically. It's just durability. And then Goda, I think you just hope he plays, see how he goes. I think we'll touch on the midfield. So an interesting mix of midfielders. I don't think I've seen this mix before. So Callum Mills, I wouldn't touch. I think it's come out with him that he is playing. He said that he can play kind of plug holes, he can like go down back. He says he really likes playing down back, which is not what we want to hear. And as we saw in the back half of the year, where Warner's mid-time increased, you know, Mills's CBA's decreased. So yeah, I think he's unfortunately he's a bit of a Mr. Fix-It, and we can't have that. I don't like that. I can't pay 640 for that, so I would not pick him. But if things align and he just somehow stays in the middle, then I think he's a good pick. But I don't have confidence that will happen, and for that reason, it's a no from me. Then you got Bond. I think Bond's a lock, and then Parrish. I'm not the biggest fan of Parrish just because of his durability, but the numbers do stack up with him. Slight interrupted preseason, but apparently fit and firing now. Yeah, the numbers are good with him. I do wonder a little bit, do they play Perkins and Nick Martin, we'll get to, he's rolling through a few CBAs. Does that mean that the top end guys get their mid-time cut a little bit, like Merritt and Parrish, where some of the other guys get a little bit more time? I'm not too sure. So something to watch CBAs in the preseason. Fully fit, I think he's a good pick. I think it's the durability for me that's the kicker, because we have really strong alternatives as well. I don't think I would look elsewhere, but I know JD's pretty hot on Parrish, but that's fine. It's just more of a durability conservative thing for me, but I think he'll score fine, so that's okay. And then Tom Green, I think we'll see. I've spent enough time on certain players this team, so I think we'll get to Tom Green. I'm sure there'll be another one with him, and I do like Mitchell having a good preseason. And then the forward line, Ruck's probably, I think it's very standard. If there's anything different in the next few teams, we'll discuss that, but I don't think I need to discuss English Marshall. And then you got Nick Martin and Sam Flanders here, so pretty unique. So Nick Martin, I think he's too far behind the CBA pecking order, and I think for him to be a top 6 or top 8 forward, we'd need a really weak, or we'd need basically no DPPs come in that are relevant. So look, I think it's worth watching him because he's been playing a little bit in the CBAs, but I think he can be used off wing and half forward, and that's where you start pulling your hair out. So I think it's a little bit too risky, but I guess it's worth watching. He's had a massive preseason. And then Flanders, I think the hope is you just see the CBA. So I think the team is solid. I would make a few adjustments. I think Parrish is fine if you want to keep him, just me being conservative. And then I think Mills, I think you get to... I think you just go down to 12 here, and then you go, go down from Nick Martin, and then, I don't know, get to whoever you want. And then you spread that money, maybe upgrade a Mills a little bit, maybe you turn Dacos or Young into a Sicily or Dawson or Stewart, whoever you like. So, or you get like a Caulfield and down back or something. So that's what I would do there. But yeah, I think it's a solid start. I'd make a few changes. So thank you for your team, big U. The next team we have is SAs. So I think I've got into a vaccine argument with SAs in Discord, but nonetheless, he's good to have around in the Discord. I'm always providing his insight and takes. And yeah, a bit of a different one here. Very light at a glance, very light down back. 6 deep in the midfield. Big Shrek in the ruck, and an interesting forward line, Butters, you don't see too much. So yeah, this is an interesting team. So it's always good to discuss the more different teams. So down back, I like Doherty a lot. I think he'll start in the midfield. even though there might be a logjam in there. But yeah, as soon as Walsh comes back, I can't see, it's hard to see him getting a lot of mid-time, just too many plays, and then Kennedy starts to get fitness, but he can score either way, and there's no Zach Williams there, so that should help him and Sard, although I think Doherty scored worse without Williams, which is weird. But regardless, I don't think it matters too much. Caulfield go to McKenna. I think Caulfield has grown on me as a pick, and I think with Caulfield, it sounds like he's getting a bit of confidence. He looks really fit. His ACL was early Feb, so he's going to get 13 and a bit months before his round 1 game, about 13.5 months. So I think that should be enough time. And then I think he had a hamstring earlier in the preseason, which was related to the graft he got for his ACL. So hopefully the surgery fixes that up. But yeah, I think he's supposed to play in the Amy game, so something to watch. I think he's best 22, so I think he's a fine pick at his price. He's priced at 38, so he needs to go 68, and even if he goes a bit less than that, not great, but I think it's kind of fills the void and makes some money down back, because we don't want to pay too much in defense for the 600k guys. Weddle and Gould on field, and you got Wilmot and Cowan. I'm not quite, I guess it depends if they pop up. I think Cowan could be fieldable, as with Wilmot. Little both, I guess, risky sub-risk, which is not great, but I guess we have to field some rookies, and yeah, I think if you're going to field rookies anywhere, the way things are structuring up, it's probably defense at this stage. I think it's probably a bit too light. But we'll see how we go. I think that area might need a bit of help, and I can see that you can definitely allocate some money in the midfield to go down back. So Bond McRae completely fine. Steele, I'm not starting Steele. I think he will ease his way into the season. Usually starts a little bit slow, and his preseason's been a bit like, I'm not hearing great things. I'm not hearing bad things, but I'm not hearing like outstanding things. I guess you don't really need to, because he's a proven guy. Doesn't need to go 100% in the preseason, but few missed sessions earlier in the preseason. Not too sure what's going on there. Was in a non-contact cap. I would advise, or my opinion is, I would wait on Steele. Just let it play out. If he goes bang early, so be it. Just get him after his first bye. I think he shares that bye with Neil, so I guess people will be looking at one of those two to upgrade to then. LDU, Green, and Mitchell. I think all 3 is too many. I think even 2 is pushing your luck a little bit. But I think you can do the 2. So I would get rid of one of these, because you need room for... You need Laird, you need Took, you need Neil. You need those 3, I think, almost certainly. So unless you're planning to flip them in the buys, I'd probably turn one of them, whichever you least like, into a defender. Whichever defender you like. It could be a Young or a Dacos. If you don't like them, I'd probably go up to Sicily. But that's up to you. Darcy and Marshall. So with Darcy in the ruck, I don't see much point picking Darcy when English is there, just because English's role will be better. He'll get more ruck time, but I think Darcy will still be a majority ruck. I think Darcy had a bit of a niggle in training on Saturday, so that's something to keep an eye out for. So if you're going to take a durability risk, I think you take English over Darcy. That's me personally. So I would do that, but if you're really big on Darcy, then don't let me talk you out of it. And then the forward line, I think F6, Van Ruin is a big no-no, or unless we get a rookie in a good role. I wouldn't be fielding a crap F6, just because a lot of them are key forwards, or just forwards in general, that have a really bad role and are going to score very poorly. I guess, how many premiums we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, 13. If I counted that correctly. So maybe that's why. Oh yeah, no Elliot Yo. So yeah, I think the hope would be that we get a decent F6, but yeah, I'm not sure. I think people will have strong forward lines. So I guess we'll see. We'll see what pops up, but I wouldn't like to field. I think Van Ruin probably goes 45 to 50. I think his supply should be good. And I think Brown and Tom McDonald could threaten him, but yeah, it could be any rookie at this stage. So maybe there is a good one. We'll see if there's a good one. I wouldn't be fielding Van Ruin though. If if that's what we got. But yeah, I think Dunkley, Rosie, Toronto don't need to discuss much. But Zach Butters, yeah, I think it's fine. Coming to his 5th year, he's CBAs are 38% last year. You think they go up a little bit. He's a bit of a tough watch at times with the way he throws himself around. So for that reason, I'm not too keen on him. But I think he's a fine pick. I think he'll score well, and if he gets massive CBAs, watch out. So yeah, and we saw his ceiling a few years ago. I think he almost scored. It was on 110 at halftime, but then he got injured. So yeah, ridiculous ceiling, really good. You know, everything he does, contested ball, tackles, in and under. Really good use of the ball as well. So yeah, exciting player is Zach Butters. I don't mind it. He's probably just prefer Canelio. I think Canelio gets more mid-time, and I mean, neither of them are all that durable, to be honest. But yeah, I guess whoever you prefer. I think Butters is perfectly fine, a bit cheaper as well. So I think the team's good. I quite like it. It's different. I think I'd probably take one mid out and help the defense out, and hopefully we get a better F6 pop up. And I'd probably go English over Darcy if you're taking a durability risk there. So next team we have is Jacko's team. It's a normal team, normal name, which is good to see. Anyway, yeah, I'm really liking the different sort of teams we're seeing here. And yeah, it's good to talk about. So down back, Dawson, Dale, and Dacos. So I like all three of these. I think Dawson. The only issue with Dawson is he's the tag target, and he might spend a bit more time on a wing, which he doesn't score as well, it seems, when playing at the Crows. Although he scored quite good there at Sydney. So I'm leaning towards Dawson as an upgrade target, but I think he's pretty safe top 6 regardless, and he's just such a great player. So yeah, good to watch. So I think he's a fine pick. Dale, my issue with Dale is if they have... So they got Ed Richards, and then Caleb Daniel's been half forward and midfield from what I read in Match Sim on Saturday. I'm recording this at like 1 a.m. on a Sunday. Sunday in the morning, basically. But yeah, what I was reading was Daniel did go back a little bit, but was mostly midfield and half forward. So the worry is as soon as if Daniel, they decide to send him back, I think you're in trouble with the Dale pick, because we saw his scoring tank when all three were in the back line. So for that reason, I think I'd pass on Dale. But if Daniel does stay up the ground, he's getting more kick-ins and he's getting more usage, and I can see upside in that pick, and I can see him being a top 6 defender. So I guess it's your confidence level in whether they keep Daniel up the ground. For me, I'd pay for a bit more certainty. The pick can work, but you can understand the risks. And yeah, the Dacos, Yo, go to McKenna. So I think it's a solid, pretty safe. Look, I'm not sure if Goat is a sub-risk or not, and I'm not sure if McKenna is either, but I think everyone will have McKenna on field anyway, so it doesn't matter. I think, but yeah, it's good coverage at D6, so I really like that. I'd feel comfortable with that. In the midfield, Miller, Bont, McRae, Mitchell. I think that's a very solid lineup. And yeah, pretty standard. McLean in the midfield, so maybe he likes something in the forward line. Then we get to the rucks, Marshall and Lysette. My read on this is I think Lysette can score, and sounds like he's having a good preseason. But Ken Hinckley was not afraid to spin the magnets in the ruck. For that reason, Finlayson and Dixon can spend some time in there. What does that balance look like? It sounds like they're definitely going to use Finlayson in there. I would feel a little bit nervous with Lysette, and I read Big Footy a lot, and the Port supporters, their two least favourite people at Port Adelaide are Ken Hinckley and Scott Lysette, from what I read anyway, for whatever reason. They must not rate him, or they're sick of him or something. I don't know. That's just what I read. So that to me is a big negative, so I wouldn't take the risk. I can see it working, but if it doesn't work, it's not going to be pretty. You don't want to use 2 trades to fix the ruck, then behind the rest of the comp. It could work, but you can see what can go wrong with the pick, and for that reason, it's too risky for me. The forward line, Dunkley, Rosie, Taranto, beautiful combo. And then we have Miller, Flanders, and Allen. I actually like all three of these picks, and it's weird because I think you ask some people, and some people think all three are terrible because, how's Flanders going to get the mid-time? Oscar Allen's a key forward, and George, please, Wayne Miller. I keep copying it for Wayne Miller, but I think Miller, he had a little small mishap at training, which was unexplained, but he did play the match sim, so he was in the rehab group for a day, and then he's back in match sim, so it sounds like he's fine. I don't mind it. I'm still considering picking him, but for me, I think I've shifted towards 12 keepers, which is making it really hard to keep Miller in the team. I think the DPP will be really nice. That will be a really big advantage because I don't see any DPP defender forwards at the moment. And being able to swing him and upgrade without flexibility and bring in rookies in any line, basically, because you can swing Miller back and forth. It is very, very, very good to have, and it's a big advantage. I think he'll get the role. I think he'll score well, and I think he'll take some kick-ins. The durability is just atrocious, and yeah, the mishap at training, which we don't know what it was, but it was very minor. It's just a reminder that things could go wrong. But I think he'll score, and I think he's a better pick than Fife because the role is better than Fife. He's not a better player than Fife, but the role will be better, and he's also at a better age. I think he's like mid-20s, whereas Fife is 31, 32. We spoke about Flanders before, and Oscar Allen, I don't mind. I think with Darling, might have a serious issue with his ankle. So that leaves Allen and Waterman as the tools, and Allen will start getting the number one key defender if he wasn't already going to get that. You could get double teamed. Yeah, I think Darling probably takes the pressure off him a bit, so this is not a good sign for him. I think he can do 70, which is fine. He's priced at 38. If you can do 70, I think that's fine. That's what you want. I think his pre-buy 2021 was 74, and then he fell off a cliff. So I think West Coast will be better. I think it's okay. It doesn't sound like he'll ruck, but I think he can do... Oops, that's my iTunes. I think he can do 70. I know he did 63 last time, but it was subbed off in the last game. I don't know. For his back half of the year was just horrific. But yeah, he said he's fitter than he's ever been. I think it's important not to be attached to Oscar Allen. If you can find a player with a better role that you like, that can score above 70 at a similar price, I would go that route. But I think he's fine pick. I think he's no sub risk, best 22, star player. I think we can get 150k out of him, which is what we want. So thank you for your team, Jacko. The next team we have is Jimmy Baker. So he's gone the expensive defenders, Dawson and Stewart. So I still think that's fine. I think, yeah, almost impossible for these two not to be top 6. We were on the Moreira's Magic podcast, and Selby was speaking about Tom Stewart, where he thinks, I think there's probably 2 issues with Stewart, and that one is he's over 30 now, so maybe he gets like rested once during the season or something like that. Well, we know what Geelong do. They like to manage their players. And also, I think towards the back, when he came back after his suspension, they probably realised they don't need him to absolutely dominate the back line or, use him every single time out of the back line to do really well. And, when he was suspended, wasn't playing, Geelong were playing probably their best football. Obviously, they'd be better with him, but they were still playing outstanding. They don't, it wasn't like they could cover him, basically. So they got Duncan gone back there. They have young... Not Ollie. Yeah, sorry, Ollie Henry. I was getting confused between Jack and Ollie Henry. It's I think Ollie Henry's been playing down back. So that's something to keep an eye on. If that eats into Stewart, yeah, Bose and Duncan. Not for me. I don't like the Stewart pick, but he's the most popular premium defender. Second to Dacos, I think, but I think he'll be fine, and it's hard to see him not being top 6. And we spoke about Dawson before. Fine pick is the tag target. Haven't seen much Ginbey yet. I think Ginbey's a fine pick. All the reports are that he's flying in the preseason and he's a lock for round 1, which is what you want to hear. And he's this big body. The one thing to be careful with Ginbey is if he's playing mid and forward, so midfield, that's probably what you want. They got Kelly, they got Shee, they got Yo, they got a whole bunch of other guys that can go through there. But when he was playing down back in juniors, he wasn't playing. From what I have read, he was playing more of like a lockdown-ish role. So I'm not sure how much he's involved with rebounding in defense if he's playing back there, but it could be a not so friendly role. But that's something to watch in the preseason. And then McKenna at D6, I like that. The mids, Oliver, Took, Bont, pretty lethal combo. I really like that. And I think I'd be more than happy to pay $700 for Oliver. Others will get him cheaper, but captain option, and there are times where you'll be priced out of Clayton Oliver. Mitchell I like, but I think still slight watch. Dom Sheed here. So I think when we ran the numbers with Dom Sheed, last time I think it was first half of 2021, I want to say. What were the numbers? Off the top of my head, it was 88 or 89 average with 78% CBAs. They have Kelly, they have Yo, they have Cully, they have Sheed. They're going to rotate Gimby in there. I think Shui as well. So there's a lot of players to go through there. How much do they want to give mid-time to Sheed? If I see anything less than 65% CBAs in the preseason, I'd be off Dom Sheed. Fantasy's a little different because he's a better scorer in fantasy. He can burn the ball a little bit, but I think the risk is that he doesn't get the CBAs. But it sounds like he's going to be a main fixture in the midfield. So that's something to keep an eye on. English and Marshall, perfectly fine. And then Dunkley, Cogs, Taranto, no Rosie. I think you don't have to pick Rosie. The reason why I will pick him is because he's priced in the low 90s, and when in the midfield he did 105. So I see upside in him, and he's really fun to watch as well. Another Flanders pick, I guess it's just a bit of a watch, and Allen we spoke about before, and then rounding it out with McLean. I think it's a very, very solid team, and I don't think there's no real weak point here. I think probably your worst scorer is Ginby. Let me count the keepers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, 11 keepers. That's probably the weak point. I'd probably aim for 12 if you can. Yeah, I'd probably go for 12. But I guess if you are going 11, you kind of want your Dom Sheed types, your Flanders, and maybe even like another 300k guy like a Warple, only if he's good though. So, but which jury's sort of out on that. So I think you can get away with 11, but I think the way things are going, people are skewing more to 12. But yeah, if you can get to 11, I would. Otherwise, I think this team will be very solid. Like, there's no premiums here that you have to stress over. They're all going to be solid. The next team we have is from Pizza Safety. So he's a very, very good super coacher, probably one of the best, if not the best in our Discord. I think he's ranked 2nd or 3rd in the Supercoach Data Hall of Fame. So yeah, good to speak with him regularly and share ideas and whatnot. But yeah, so he sent the team, and I like what I see on the surface. In defense, Sicily and Young. If I'm picking a 600k defender, it's Sicily. If I'm picking a 500k defender, I think it's Young over Dacos at the moment. Well, we'll see how Dacos goes and how much mid-time he gets. So I really like that. I think it's very solid. Sicily is a little bit overpriced, but I guess all the 600k guys are, unless you want to make a case for Stewart with his suspension and whatnot last year in concussion games. So yeah, I think that's a solid 2. Yeah, again, if I were to pick those plays in those price ranges, it'll be those 2. Yo, I think is just Yo is Yo. I think most people are going to pick him, and then we'll go down with the ship together with everyone else if it goes wrong. Caulfield, I think I spoke about Caulfield earlier in the video. Yeah, I think he looks like he should be ready for round 1. So I guess keep an eye out in the preseason how he goes. I think he'll get that 3rd tall intercepting role, probably what Highmore would have hoped to got. So we'll see how that goes. Tom Cole, I don't think Cole is a good pick because he's asked to do lockdown jobs in defense. While he can intercept here and there, when you're playing lockdown, your job is not to get the ball, and it's going to be frustrating own. So I don't know what sort of output. I can't imagine it would be anything more than 65, which would be an absolute best case. So I could see him more in like the mid-50s range. So I'm not the biggest fan of him. So I'd probably swap him to Gota if you have the money, which might be just short, but I think you have to find it. And yeah, Wilmot, Weddle bench, it's fine. McKenna D6 is strong. In the midfield, we have Oliver Bond. I think that's a great C and VC combo. Parrish and Tom Green. So you speak about Tom Green, I guess. I spoke about Parrish earlier in the video. I'm not the biggest fan. Just I think that he will score well. Sorry, he will score well, but again, like Finnick was in preseason, soft tissue last year. I wouldn't go there. I think there's no guarantee. Like I guess there's no guarantee anyone plays every single game, but Parrish is more likely to have a soft tissue injury than probably the top 10 mids that are there. So for that reason, I wouldn't want to risk that. So I would go elsewhere. But again, like don't let me talk you out of it if you're a big believer. And then there's Tom Green. So Tom Green's an interesting case, and we'll speak about this a bit more in depth on the midfielders pod. So I wasn't too high on Tom Green. I think I'm starting to come around to the idea because it sounds like he's fitter this preseason, apparently dominating match sim, but everyone who isn't at this point. And basically, he just needs more CBAs. And from what it sounds like, is there's going to be a consistent 4 in the Giants' midfield rotation. That is Perryman, Cogs, Kelly, and Tom Green. So I think they're going to be just more regular inside mids now, and they'll run with that 4. So I would expect Green to get as much mid-time as he can handle. That might be 65, that might be 75, I'm not too sure. So we'll see how he goes. And he's one that you can flip in the last buy round because the last 2 seasons he has not been fit enough to run out the season. I think 2021 finished off with a hamstring, and last year just out of form, dropping 50s, and did have 1 or 2 good games on the home stretch, like last 5 rounds, but had some shockers as well. But CBAs weren't super high either. But fitter this time around, so I think you can back him in, and I think he has a high contested rate. I think it's 54%, something like that. And I think that'll probably go up with more CBAs. So I think he's a fine pick, but monitor in the preseason. English and Marshall standard, and then again we spoke about Butters earlier. Butters is I think he'll score well, a bit younger than Cogs, and I guess the durability is probably just as bad as each other. So, I think Butters is perfectly fine. I can't really say don't pick him, but just the way he plays just is hard to watch sometimes in terms of like heart in your mouth sort of stuff. But he's a star player, and love to actually watch him play football when he's up and about. Is he a consistent player yet? Because in his last 5 games, I think he averaged like 110 plus or something like that, but it was a very, very easy fixture. So I guess monitor the CBAs, monitor how he looks in preseason, but I'm not sure it matters too much because I'm sure he'll look great. And then Ben King at F6. I like Allen a bit more to King. Allen is a bit more, 40k more. I just think Allen can get up the ground, take a few more marks. And I think he's probably a better player than King at this stage. And King is also coming off the ACL, although you could debate one or the other is better. I think, I think Allen can do 70. I think King has absolutely no chance of doing 70, and I don't think he can even do 60. I think 55, which is what he's done in the past. So, especially off the ACL as well, it's not going to be easy. So, he's probably a pass for me where he doesn't score enough to want him on the field, but he could spike early, who knows. So I think it's a really solid team. I do like not seeing a whole lot of Sicily at the moment, not seeing a whole lot of Butters, and not seeing a whole lot of Parrish. So I think a few pods that can score. Well, Sicily's not a pod, but a lot of players who can score quite well here. So I like the team. I think Hewitt, we're not going to need Hewitt. I would cut him and use that money, like get Cole to Goda. Hewitt he wants to be a mid-forward, which means that early in his career, most likely will be forward, but I guess monitor the role in the preseason. Bit of mid-time might be alright, but I fully expect half-forward in a most likely bottom, not necessarily bottom 4. Might see a bit of a spike from West Coast, but it's hard to see him playing finals with the durability of a lot of their players, but we'll see. They seem optimistic. Now, the next team is from Revolving Upstairs. Laird and Oliver, I like that in the midfield. We'll get to that in a second. C. Grundy. So down back, Stuart, Doherty, Young. I think that's fine. Is it too much to spend? It might be. It just depends on, I guess maybe you're not the biggest fan of Elliot Yeo, and that's completely fine. I understand that. So yeah, I think that's a solid 3, and I think I've got them all in my top 8 defenders. So I think that's solid. Gota, McKenna, Wilmot. So I think, yeah, the hope is that Wilmot can be a D6 for us. It's the reality is he might be a sub risk, but you got to field some rookie somewhere, and you're not probably going to get crap scores from your key forward F6s at the moment, but yeah, we'll see who pops up. Yeah, I think the defense is quite solid. Again, we're towards the end here, the reviews will be slightly shorter because we've touched on players earlier in the video. So Laird and Oliver, can you go both Laird and Oliver? And my opinion early in the preseason was no, it's too much to spend. But there's a few issues that I'm having with a few gripes, whether it's early tags or interrupted preseasons, with a few of the other midfielders in the 600 to 650 range, I want to say. So for that reason, I actually like Laird and Oliver, and if you're going to pay up for 2 players, I think it's your M1 and M2 this year. Possibly R1 if something happens to English. And where you look at a wits, and that's probably a discussion for the Ruck podcast we'll do soon. So, but yeah, I think here's the thing with Laird and Oliver. It's a bit harder to say now because we have the boosts now. So with boosts, it's much easier to get these midfielders in the team. Just because you got 3 trades and you're trying to pay probably low to mid 600s for the real top dogs like your Laird and Oliver, and they could come down and other people will get them cheaper, but you get a captain option, and I think they're going to be quite difficult to trade in even with the boost, because we're going to have a lot of opportunities to grab these 600k defenders. They will come down. I think Tuke is in line for early tags. I think Merritt's in line for early tags, and I think it's these plays that we might prioritize over your Laird and Oliver. And I think Laird will always hover around the low to mid, I don't know, that 620 to 670 range. So he will be cheap and you can grab him there. But I think Oliver you can be priced out of. We know that he's going to go 200 at some point, and you don't want that to be early. I think last year he had a big one, 160 or 170 or something fairly early, and then he kind of got away from you really quick. So for that reason, I think the windows might be small to get these players in at times, but regardless, you will have windows to get them in. So I think I don't mind paying up for them at the start rather than paying for a player like a Steele or a Parrish or even McRae, where I think there's certain they have their own individual question marks on them. But I guess it depends on your confidence level on them. Whereas with Oliver, you're paying up, but you know what you're getting. You're getting probably your M1 or M2 for the year. So for that reason, that's my logic behind. I think it's okay to pay 700 for both, but I'd be very careful paying up elsewhere as well, because overpaying too much everywhere is you give up too much value to the rest of the comp. Tom Green we spoke about. I haven't even spoken about Hopper, but apparently he's all fine. He'd been missing a few sessions in the preseason on a managed program, probably from that knee issue that he had last year. But nonetheless, he's been dominating match sim from what we've heard, and he played in the one on Saturday. So I think he's all good and lock and load. English and Grundy, I wouldn't go Grundy. We'll see what happens in the preseason. I think people see, he's done 130. He's not going to do that obviously with Gawn, but maybe we can get 100 from him. What does that Gawn Grundy setup look like? How does it? Where does the other ruck play? Does Gawn play like Jackson's role, a bit more forward, kind of roam around the ground as well, with Grundy's the main ruck? Because Gawn is a better ruck, and how is Grundy used when he's not in the centre bounce? That'll be interesting. Does he have to go forward? I want to see how it works. And again, the problem is we might see how it works in 1 or 2 preseason games, but how is it going to work week to week? It might change as they try and figure things out. And there might be times where Grundy gets stuff all ruck time, and Gawn is the main ruck. I mean, who knows? So Gawn is a better ruck. That's the thing. In the centre bounce, if they start losing centre bounces for whatever reason, they need Max Gawn in there, not Grundy. I don't know. So for me, it's just a few question marks, and is he going to get enough ruck time to be a good scorer? Not too sure. We'll see how it goes. It's a no from me though, but I'll watch. And then in the forward line, I think this is very, very standard, and we've touched on all these players. But yeah, I do think Flanders is one where he could be must-have, depending if they choose to use him in a top 4 mid rotation, or he could like flop. And because he did mention in a video, they interviewed him. He had like at least 3 interviews in this preseason, given all the hype they're giving him. But yeah, he did say that he might need to be used, to consolidate himself in the best 22. He'll need to play other roles basically. So, but I guess the hope is that he becomes a core part of the mid rotation. So that's just nothing to say other than we wait and see. So yes, oops. So this is Spen's team. So thank you for your team. I think this is the last one. Yep. So last team for the video. Backline, Dawson, Young, Dacos. We spoke about, can you run Young and Dacos? Can you run both of them? I think you can. But yeah, I spoke about that before, but I would only do it if you think they're both going to go 100 plus, basically. So I think they both do though. So I think it's okay. But yeah, you probably won't have the chances that they're both top 6, I think are low, just because the quality of the other defenders that we have. Yeah, it depends how you want to structure up as well. Caulfield, Goda, McKenna. I think that's really solid. D4 to D6. And then in the midfield, you got Took, Bont, Parrish, Green. Oh boy, I just saw the R2. We'll get to that in a second. So yeah, do you have to run one of Laird or Oliver as a main captain? I don't think so. I think Dunkley will be a VC. I think Bont will be a C as well. And then I think Took, he started slow last year for whatever reason. I'm not sure why. And I'm not sure, Took for me didn't feel like a captain option last year, especially the way Laird and Oliver were going. And in the write-up we have on the preseason, what I put it down to with Took Miller's scoring decline is we saw Anderson and Rao, especially Rao, was barely in there the year before, was injured, I think, or wasn't playing well at all. Yeah, that was right. He played, but he looked terrible. And then, yeah, Anderson's emergence as well. And not only that, is the game style of Gold Coast basically was a bit more hacking it forward, a bit more direct, and that meant that Took's kicking efficiency dropped quite substantially. I think it was over 10% or something like that. I have to double check that, but it was a substantial drop, and that's where most likely where the I think what did he do, 124, and he dropped to 120 average. But I still think he can do low 120s, but I don't think he can do 130. But yeah, it does look in ridiculous shape at the moment. So he's one that we're all going to want. And yeah, Parrish I spoke about before. I think he will score well, but is he going to play a full season? I think we have alternatives that have a much higher chance. And then Tom Green. I think Tom Green will be alright. Just watch him in the preseason. Comes with no guarantees, but with the increase in CBAs, more mid responsibility, and fit in his 4th season, I think he's an exciting prospect. And then you got Sam Draper at R2. I guess you just got to watch and see how he goes. I think that English is worth the extra 200k. I think, yeah, English has had a great preseason. They had a few niggles, which is a bit annoying, and I do worry about his durability a lot, but that English plays, he will score, you would think. So probably goes 110 plus. I guess Draper, you don't want to be in a bad spot if he doesn't fire, but yeah, he needs to improve literally every aspect of his game. So he's a preseason watch, Draper. I think some people are kind of rolling their eyes and not even willing to consider. I just think that there might be alternative routes pop up. It's looking unlikely that there will be one, but it's worth watching for them. And I think Draper fits the mold as someone who can break out. So he's one to watch. I'm not sure. Yeah, my confidence level in Draper is pretty low, to be honest, to be a premium scorer, but I think we'll see some improvement from him. It's just a very big jump. And then you got the Dunkley, Cogs, Rosie, Taranto combo. I think that's a combo I'll be rolling with. And if I have to drop one, I think it'll be... it's not Dunkley, it's not Taranto, so it'll be Cogs or Rosie, and I think it's probably Cogs. But Cogs' fixture early, and same with Tom Green, is frightening. They played 4 of the bottom 6 of last year. Hawthorn, West Coast, Adelaide, another Essendon. The fixtures is too easy. And then yeah, McLean at F6. I think that's very solid. McLean is probably the ideal F6. and a bit of money in the bank. So thank you for your team, Spen. So thanks for watching the video. I hopefully you enjoyed these teams. I did enjoy rating them because there was quite a lot of differences. A few things that could be improved, I think, but yeah, always remember, back yourself, back your research, and if you think a pick is good, if someone says your pick is rubbish and they don't really give you a good reason, just ignore them. You always want to have, don't be talked out of a pick just because someone says it's crap. You need a really strong reason to take a player you really like out. So it might be, explain that, their role might not be there for them. That's probably a good enough reason to take them out. But otherwise, back yourself, back your research. And thanks so much for your teams. FantasyTakeTV.com. If you want to sign up there, you'll get a team rate on one of our YouTube channels. That's me, JD, or Eno. Plus all the other content. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys soon.